Design Commission to order. May we have a roll call?
Monica Sullivan.
Here.
Jerry Winchester. Jerry Winchester.
Here.
Nicole Ream.
Here.
Here.
Melissa Morse.
Here.
Barbara Cash.
Here.
Carla Baxley.
Here.
Edith McKee.
Here.
Arthur Clark.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to special order of business. Are there any disclosures this evening? I believe we should have disclosures from Commissioner Baxley and Commissioner McKee on the resolutions.
Yes, this is Carla Baxley. I have a disclosure. I will not be voting on Resolution 2020-010 or Case 2020-0055 because I recused myself from the case.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxley. Commissioner McKee?
Hi, sorry. Yes, I need to recuse myself from... Oh, gosh. Sorry, I'm trying to find it on the agenda. Case number 2020-0056, the major site plan review for Chickishla Park Improvement Project.
Thank you. Are there any other disclosures? If you do have a disclosure, please just type yes. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda, understanding that Commissioner Baxley will not be voting for 2020-0055, and Commissioner McKee will not be voting on 2020-0056. We do have a quorum for the resolutions for approval. May we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? If you would like to type motion for me. We have a motion from Commissioner Morse and a second. Oh wait, who is that? I'm sorry. I'm reading the chat is apparently challenging for me. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Cash and a second from Commissioner Morse. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. This will eventually become easy. Moving on to the regular agenda. We have a case here for 2020-0041. The petitioner is the Municipality of Anchorage, Project Management and Engineering, with a context-sensitive solutions transportation project, plans in hand, for West 32nd Avenue and East 33rd Avenue for upgrades from Arctic Boulevard to Old Seward Highway. This was postponed from April 8th of this year, and I will note this is not a public hearing. However, if there is anyone listening that does have an interest in this project, I will read item 4 from our public testimony process, and if anyone has appeals, they can take heed of this. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except commission recommendations to the Assembly which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the clerk's office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. Moving on from that, may we have the staff's presentation?
Thank you. The Municipality of Anchorage Project Management and Engineering Department is requesting Urban Design Commission approval of a plans in hand application that proposes to reconstruct the following street segments: West 32nd Avenue between Arctic Boulevard and A Street, Calais Drive, East 33rd Avenue between Denali Street and the Seward Highway, Fairbanks Street between East 33rd Avenue and West 36th Avenue, East 34th Avenue between Fairbanks Street and Old Seward Highway. This application constitutes phases 2, 3, and 4 of the wider 32nd Avenue and East 33rd Avenue upgrades project. Figure 1 in the staff report shows the extent of the proposed improvements. The Urban Design Commission approved the plans in hand designs for phase 1 of this project on March 11th, 2020. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the design study report for the entire project corridor on June 3rd, 2019. The reconstruction work in phases 2 through 4 of this project will include sidewalks, one-way raised cycle tracks, a multi-use pathway connecting Fairbanks Street between East 34th Ave and West 36th Ave, upgraded lighting, and a pipe drainage system. The primary purpose of the project is to provide a comfortable and continuous east-west bicycle and pedestrian route through Midtown Anchorage. The plans in hand designs for phases 2, 3, and 4 of the West 32nd Avenue and East 33rd Avenue upgrades project are largely consistent with the designs proposed in the design study report, except for the proposed multi-use pathway from East 34th Avenue to East 36th Avenue. It was approved as a 10-foot wide pathway in the DSR, but the plans in hand designs propose to reduce the width of this facility to an 8-foot multi-use pathway. According to the Traffic Department and National Design Guidance, in the absence of right-of-way constraints, a multi-use pathway width of 10 feet or greater is required to comfortably accommodate bidirectional bicycle and pedestrian traffic. A recommended condition of approval is therefore to require the multi-use pathway between East 34th and West 36th to be at least 10 feet wide. And reviewing this current plans in hand review, or this current plans in hand application, per 2103-190B5C, the Commission's review of the plans in hand designs shall include the items identified in the staff report. Each item is addressed as follows. First, looking at compliance with this title, the designs in this plans in hand application conform to all applicable provisions of Title 21, and the context of the area and the long-term impact on existing and projected adjacent land uses. The addition of pedestrian and bicycle facilities is supportive of both existing and projected land uses along the project corridor. As shown in Figure 7 in the staff report, the existing zoning along the project corridor is B3 General Business District and R4 Multifamily Residential District. Both of these zoning districts carry the potential for high-density commercial and residential developments. And also, as shown in Figure 8, the land use designations in the land use plan map for the area consist of city center and urban residential high. A transit-supportive development corridor overlays most of the project corridor as well. These designations could facilitate even higher densities in the future. Overall, the roadway upgrades and addition of pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure supports the higher densities present in the project corridor's current land uses, existing zoning, and future land use designations. And moving to the initial cost of materials, including installation. The initial cost of materials and installation is estimated at $11.5 million. And for long-term costs associated with operations and maintenance, the applicant states that long-term costs associated with these considerations will increase due to the added bicycle and pedestrian facilities and new lighting. However, as in phase 1 of this project, the applicant expects these cost increases to be minimal due to more efficient LED lighting and thicker material used for striping. And looking at adherence to a design theme established through local area plans or prior public improvements. Like phase 1 of this project, phases 2 through 4 are now part of any local area plans. These phases continue the decorative banner introduced in phase 1, which brands the corridor as the Midtown Connector to provide both aesthetic interest and wayfinding elements for bicyclists and pedestrians using the corridor to traverse Midtown. Renderings of these banners are included in Figure 9 of the staff report. And effectiveness in meeting community design goals. No specific community design goals have been established for the corridor. Finally, accommodation of pedestrian and non-motorized users. Providing a comfortable, convenient, and continuous accommodation for non-motorized traffic traversing Midtown is the primary goal of this project. New sidewalks and lighting are proposed throughout, and the phases of the project considered in this review introduce the first raised cycle tracks in Alaska. Raised cycle tracks are comfortable facilities for most bicyclists because they physically separate bicyclists from vehicles. The National Association of City Traffic Engineers and the Federal Highway Administration consider them a type of protected bicycle facility that provides high levels of comfort for all ages and abilities regardless of traffic conditions. Raised cycle tracks are excellent facilities for bicyclists due to the protection from vehicle traffic, and it is desirable that the facilities do not drop off at each intersection. As currently proposed, the raised cycle tracks in this project provide minimal bicycle lane markings through intersections, or bicycle lane extensions. Although not only at local street crossings, although these accommodations are only provided at local street crossings using single-line dash markings. There are currently no bicycle lane extension markings provided at larger intersections such as A Street, C Street, and Denali Street. Examples of some non-motorized intersection accommodations used for similar bicycle facilities in other cities, including bicycle lane extensions, are provided in figures 10 through 12 of the staff report. The project also does not currently, in terms of intersections, the project also does not currently include any bicycle-specific traffic signalization strategies, although it does propose informational signage letting bicyclists know where to stop to ensure they are detected by existing traffic signals. Conversations with the applicant and the Municipality of Anchorage Traffic Department has shown that a variety of intersection accommodations and bicycle signalization strategies were considered, but were not included in the final design due to budget constraints and maintenance costs. The Traffic Department also indicated that some of these treatments would not be considered for initial project construction because existing bicycle traffic counts do not warrant them, and that any treatment would need to be evaluated to ensure that there is no impact to other user groups. With these constraints in mind, a recommended condition of approval is for the project to monitor the corridor after construction and consider installing appropriate intersection accommodations for non-motorized traffic where future need dictates and maintenance abilities allow. And still within bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, moving to detectable warning strips. At intersection approaches, the project proposes tactile plastic detectable warning strips on the raised cycle track facilities that would signal to visually impaired pedestrians that they're entering the roadway. Although pedestrians are not supposed to walk in the cycle track area, the warning strips are intended to alert visually impaired pedestrians that might use the facility unintentionally. Figure 13 shows the placement of these strips and generally clarifies what these look like. While some sort of tactile warning would be appropriate, the plastic material currently proposed can become very slippery for bicycles traveling at relatively high speeds in wet conditions. The recommended condition of approval is therefore for an alternative detectable warning system that uses a material that is less hazardous for bicycles in wet weather, or to use an alternative detectable warning strip configuration to minimize risk. And also the multi-use pathway that was described earlier, a recommended condition of approval is to increase the width of that to 10 feet from 8 feet. So public comments, no comments in this case have been received from the community councils or the public. And agency comments, the project management and engineering department has been coordinating technical comments related to the details of the design. No written agency comments have been received that affect the CSS plans in hand review. However, the planning department has incorporated discussions with the traffic department into this report and the recommended conditions of approval. With that in mind, the department recommends approval of the context-sensitive solution plans and added application, subject to the conditions on page 12 of the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Cash, you have a question?
Yes, my question for staff is regarding the raised cycle track. I wonder how they hold up with snow removal equipment.
So my understanding is that because the cycle track, the raised cycle track is flush with the sidewalk portion of the facility that pedestrians use, the wider width actually enhances the ability for snow to be cleared and stored in that area. I'll let the project team weigh in on that, though, during their discussion as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff? Seeing none, is there a petitioner online who wishes to speak? And if so, please state and spell your name for the record.
Yeah, this is Matt Edge, M-A-T-T-E-D-G-E with CRW Engineering Group. I don't have a presentation or anything specific to say, but with regard to the Commissioner's question of snow removal from the raised cycle tracks will be the same equipment that's used for sidewalks. So we expect it to be durable and do just fine.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the petitioner? Commissioner Cash?
Yes, just one more question regarding that. So the interface between the roadway snow removal and the sidewalk snow removal or the raised track side removal will be similar to how it exists now with sidewalks. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is Matt Edge again. That is correct. The snowplows will come down the street and it will push the snow into the area where the cycle track is. Hopefully it doesn't get to the sidewalk, and then at some point in time, the municipality will come in and remove the snow from the cycle track and in the sidewalk area with their smaller equipment. That is the current plan.
Okay, thank you. To follow on, does that mean there will be, temporary impediment to use of the cycle track, just as in any snowstorm, or do you think that it will be exaggerated somewhat because of the pushing of the snow onto it from the roadway?
This is Matt Edge again. Right after the snow is plowed from the roadway, there will be the cycle track will be blocked, I guess, with the removed snow until such a time as the municipality gets in there and removes it. I don't know how long that will take. I think it'll end up being up to the Operation and Maintenance Department and the administration to determine the priority of removing that snow in the wintertime. So I can't really answer that question.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions of the petitioner? If not, I have one. Does the municipality or does the petitioner have any concerns with meeting the recommendations of approval for this project, meaning the department recommendations 1, 2, and 3?
This is Matt Edge again. I don't have any concerns with any of the recommendations. The first recommendation is to monitor the project corridor after construction. That will not be up to me particularly, so I'm not sure who would serve that role, if it's the traffic department or if it's project management and engineering. So I personally don't have any concerns, but it won't be up to me to make sure that condition is lived up to.
And
the other two are just fine.
And so I think maybe staff can help us with that.
Yes, thank you. So in discussions with the traffic department, they mentioned that they do regular monitoring of these intersections and these corridors. So the understanding is that they'll be monitoring that to some extent, and any conflicts or irregularities or big increases in non-motorized traffic that arise, that will be documented on their end.
Thank you. So my question to you then again would be, does that mean that this project should be bearing that recommendation, or should that be something that traffic has just stated they will do?
I think in this case, both. So the applicant is the municipality of Anchorage, so I believe we're holding ourselves to that standard.
Okay, and the municipality of Anchorage meaning PM&E and traffic.
Yes, and the project management engineering is the applicant, but the specific applicant, but the municipality of Anchorage, or they're part of the municipality, so we feel that it's appropriate for a partnership of departments to take a look at that issue.
Okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Baxley, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have a question for the petitioner. I was looking through the soil logs, and I was wondering, I noticed that there were a couple soil logs where, like for instance, borehole 1, which is shown west of the old Stewart Highway along 33rd Avenue, has peat down to 6.3 feet. It's actually, the peat exists in a weird confined layer of its own between 4 and 6.3 feet. And then I look at borehole 12, which is along 32nd Avenue. between C Street and A Street. It has fines up to 25% in the top 2.5 feet. And there's another borehole, 16, which is along 32nd Avenue east of Arctic with 3 feet of topsoil and then 2 feet of peat underneath it. And then in borehole 22, there are fines that are up to 64%, down to 4 feet deep, and this is located on 32nd Avenue east of Spenard. But according to your typical sections, it doesn't really show how deep you're digging out these fines. And I'm wondering, are you going to show these areas or make sure that these fines are dug out? They go pretty deep. Not along the entire project, but there are certain areas, I think, that are of concern.
Would the petitioner like to take a stab?
Sure. This is Matt Edge with CRW Engineering Group again. So our typical section is just about 4 feet of excavation along the entire project corridor with insulation to not allow frost penetration down into that fines layer. Any peat that's encountered within that 4 feet of excavation would be removed down to the bottom of the peat layer. But that's the standard section for the entire corridor. I don't believe that there's any intent to over-excavate fines below that 4 foot roadway section at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the petitioner or staff? Seeing none, may we have a motion? If someone could please type motion. We have a motion from Commissioner Baxley. We will need a second, but first, Commissioner Baxley, would you please state your motion?
Yes, I move to approve case 2020-0041, context-sensitive solutions plans enhanced review for the West 32nd Avenue between Arctic Boulevard and A Street, Palace Drive, East 33rd Avenue between Denali Street and Stewart Highway, Fairbanks Street and easement through private property between East 33rd Avenue and West 36th Avenue, East 34th Avenue between Fairbanks Street and Old Stewart Highway. I base my motion to approve this case because it does meet council's, or does meet staff's recommendations.
Before we move forward with stating findings, would you please state whether or not you intend to approve the case based on department's recommendations?
Yes, I move to approve this case based on department's recommendations.
Thank you. And then we will need a second here, then we can have Commissioner Baxley speak to her motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Cash. Thank you. Commissioner Baxley, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I move to approve this motion based on staff's comments. I think that it looks like the project management and engineering department, as well as CRW, has worked very hard to coordinate all the technical comments related to details of the design. Department's recommendations based on pages 1 through 11. The approval is subject to the petitioner's application, narrative, submittals, and the following plans on file at the planning department, except as modified by these conditions of approval. Number 1, monitor the project corridor after construction for increased non-motorized traffic and or intersection conflicts. in the event of increased non-motorized traffic and or intersection conflicts, resolve with the traffic department the need for and ability to provide enhanced intersection accommodations for non-motorized traffic and bicycle signalization at each signalized intersection. Number 2, use a detectable warning strip material on the cycle track facilities that does not introduce slipping hazards for bicycles in wet weather, or provide an alternative detectable warning strip design. And number 3, the proposed multi-use pathway between East 34th Avenue and West 36th Avenue shall be at least 10 feet wide. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxley. Commissioner Cash, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I also intend to support this motion to approve. This plans in hand submittal application is consistent with the design study report approval, and it conforms with applicable provisions of Title 21. It's compatible with the existing zoning, adjacent zoning, B3 and R4 for higher density, and will provide safe and complementary supportive amenities. And also, this area of town is basically absent from existing design themes, so phases 2 through 4 of this project, continuing the phase 1 Midtown Connector branding and decorative banners, will actually help create community design. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners who wish to add findings or have discussion? Seeing none, I believe we need to move to a vote. So for case, the motion on the floor is to approve the case 2020-0041 with the department's recommendations 1 through 3. Please vote.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Winchester?
Yes.
Ms. Morse?
Yes.
Ms. Cash?
Yes.
Ms. Baxley?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
And Chair Ream has voted yes.
The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Edge, for your presentation and for making our streets more pedestrian friendly. And thank you very much. I think that's all we have for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on. It looks like we don't have any public hearings this evening. I'm not seeing anything on the agenda officially. Is there anything from the secretary? Anything from the commissioners? Seeing none, I think we can get a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Cash and a second from Commissioner McKee. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.